The story you're about to see is frankly devastating and can be difficult to watch. But Maria's family wants you to see what happened, hoping her legacy will be one of change to keep domestic violence victims alive. You're hearing the screams of 34-year-old Maria Roque, and you're watching what should never have happened. Her murder, which was totally preventable. Those who loved Maria want you to know what led to this moment. We're going to tell you Maria's story because she's not here to tell it herself. Maria Roque was full of life and full of love for her son and daughter. But behind this smile, Maria was dealing with danger, an ex-boyfriend, Kenneth Brown. And worse, she couldn't get police to stop him. Maria's close friend, Adriana Valdez.
So it wasn't like once, it wasn't twice, it was multiple times that Maria went screaming for help with like actual evidence.
Maria had photos, video, and threatening text messages. Our investigation found she filed one police report after another, over and over again. All of these in just 6 weeks. And with each one, we found a troubling pattern of police inaction.
Police don't do much. They just say it's what it is.
Andres Roque saw Maria, his twin, struggle to get help from police.
Why we have police for then if they're not protecting what they're supposed to do?
Maria filed this first report on Halloween 2023, saying she was thrown to the ground and pinned down with a foot on her chest. November 8th, her car tire gets slashed. November 11th and 12th, repeated harassing calls and texts. November 13th, a rock thrown through her front window. What did police do? They just closed one case and suspended all the rest, meaning the cases were kept open but were not being investigated.
And I always told her, don't let anyone, hurt you. She started to open up more and tell me things.
He had his own run-in with Brown and shared these pictures of an injury and broken glasses. Andres filed this police report, but no action was taken.
She was like, I need to get out from here. I need to let him go. I deserve better. And I told you do.
And then on Maria's birthday, November 24th, Maria told police she believed this was Brown setting her car on fire and then calmly walking away. For Maria, this was more than just a car. It was a memory, one she made with Andres years before. Twins buying twin cars. Documents show police had this video, but they ended up suspending this case too.
She definitely knew that, this man was definitely capable of a lot more than just damage to the material things.
Maria files 3 more police reports, November 28th, 30th, and December 8th, for harassing calls, 32 in one day, and more harassing texts. Her complaints filed with the 15th District, 2 suspended, 1 just stayed open. In all of these complaints, there's something missing. Not a single mention of police ever even questioning Brown. Not once. No contact, no arrests. Here's why that's important when we look at what failed. Maria had an emergency order of protection. Adriana, another domestic violence survivor, made sure to take Maria to get one.
I know how scary it can be. Let's go ahead and do it so you don't feel alone.
Together, they came here to domestic violence court. This is the order of protection that Maria got. This was supposed to give her a chance to have her abuser arrested after every violation. But there was a problem. First, it wasn't served. Then it wasn't enforced. This process is complicated. The Cook County Sheriff's Department had to serve Brown. That's what it's called. They had to actually give Brown court papers in person. Only then could he be arrested for any protection order violations. The sheriff's office said they tried to serve him twice with no luck.
This is a crime that's just taken less seriously. Yeah, I was going to look at that.
We showed Benna Crawford, managing director at Legal Aid Chicago, all of Maria's complaints. The nonprofit represents hundreds of domestic violence survivors every year.
Maria's case and so many cases like it demonstrate all of the different points where there was an opportunity to do that intervention, and that opportunity was missed.
Brown was eventually served, November 28th, but you can see Maria went back to police that same day with a new harassing text and repeated calls. Now that he'd been handed that paperwork, police should have arrested him for violating that protection order, but they didn't.
From what you saw in Maria's record, what do you think is the message that she got?
That she was going to have to do everything on her own.
We found police basically did the bare minimum of what they were required to do by law. They kept telling Maria she could try to go and get an arrest warrant herself from the state's attorney.
I'm not aware of any other type of case or crime that one could be the victim of where the burden would be shifted to the victim to go out and do the investigation and put together the evidence and go to the state's attorney's office and convince the state's attorney's office that they should press criminal charges. That is typically a police function.
We wanted to know, does this happen with any other crime victim? So we checked. The state's attorney's office says no. Only domestic violence victims can be told to get their own warrant. And Maria, she was told 6 times.
It's a heavy burden to bear, and one that probably shouldn't have been hers.
The last thing that she told me in the text message was he told me, "Oh, I have a gun for you."
Maria's family wants you to see what happened when the system failed her. This is December 13th, and Maria's last moments. Maria leaves early to take her 8-year-old daughter to daycare. She buckles her in and she starts walking back towards her home. Then, from across the street, you see a man quickly run up behind her, who police say is Kenneth Brown. She screams at him that her daughter is in the car. The little girl can see everything. But that doesn't stop him, even though he's her father. More surveillance video shows the shooter running away, leaving the little girl to watch her 14-year-old brother perform CPR on their dying mother.
She saw that, how her dad killed her mom and how my nephew was doing CPR. Like, she's having nightmares.
Something Maria's children should know, and you too. Maria never gave up. On December 12th, instead of going to police, this time she went straight to the Cook County State's Attorney's office. She was hoping to get an arrest warrant, and here it is, issued for Brown that very same day. Maria was finally so close to stopping him, but this help came too late. She was murdered just hours later.
There needs to be a meaningful response early on to interrupt that before we get to the point where there is a homicide or there is a serious physical attack.
This is Kenneth Brown turning himself into police about 2 weeks after Maria's killing.
How does it feel walking back into this house?
It's a lot of emotions, a lot of memories,
Back inside Maria Roque's home, everything is still as she left it.
Okay.
Andres shows us what he wants us to remember about Maria, but it's tough.
It's still her smell, her drink, because she would drink tea.
And here, still propped up on her bed, Maria's vision board, how she saw her future.
She wanted this year to be a new chapter for her. And it was too soon and she was gone.
He says her killer not only took a mother and a friend, but Andres' partner in life.
Now I feel empty. Now it's just me, because I don't have the other half. She was like a part of my life that was gonna be there forever.
Also changed forever are her children's lives. Maria's daughter moved in with a family member. Her son is out of state with his dad. Brown has been charged with murder and pleaded not guilty. We asked the Chicago police to explain the failures. They wouldn't, only sent a statement saying, in part, Domestic violence is a serious crime, and our members work with professionalism to support the victims. And they extend their condolences to Maria's family. Marissa Perlman, CBS 2 News.
It has been 1 year since Maria Roque was shot and killed in front of her children outside of her home, police say, at the hands of her abuser.
By telling Maria's story, you will see why law enforcement isn't getting orders to stay away into the hands of abusers. Marissa Perlman is always investigating and has how this goes beyond just a piece of paper.
This process is called service. Law enforcement has to physically hand over a court order to an accused abuser, telling them to stay away from their victim. But our investigation found that's getting done at a terrifyingly low rate. Here's why that's important. Without getting served, abusers can't be arrested for violating the order, leaving victims vulnerable to continued violence. Maria Roque's kids, Arabelle and AJ, hold on to each other and loved ones tight at their mom's grave. It's been 1 year since they could last feel her hug. You can see how they remember her, mother, sister, always caring and always loved, and now forever missed.
Amen.
At just 9 and 13, they witnessed what no child should see. Their mother ambushed, shot and killed on the steps of their home. AJ rushed to help.
He's angry the fact that he couldn't save her. He couldn't do anything. And, seeing her on the floor and trying to do CPR is like, it's a big drama for him.
Andres is angry too. Maria was his twin sister.
I've been getting flashbacks.
Angry nothing has changed for thousands of women just like her, fighting for safety from abuse. Maria's ex-boyfriend, Kenneth Brown, sits in jail charged with murder. He may have been the one holding the gun, but Andres blames others for Maria's death too.
I think they just didn't do the work.
5 weeks before she was killed, Maria got this emergency protection order against Brown, accusing him of abuse. It didn't help. The Cook County Sheriff's Department tried, but didn't serve Brown this order, which said he had to stay away or he'd be arrested. Without that protection, Maria reported the violence continued. Do you feel like Maria was failed?
Yeah. And I know she's not the only one. There's a lot of people.
Obviously, we feel absolutely horrible. We feel horrible not just for the obvious reasons this poor woman was murdered in the system, just failed.
We took Maria's story to Cook County Sheriff Tom Dart. His department is in charge of this process. Our investigation found the vast majority of domestic abusers are not being given orders telling them to stay away.
Our department is doing as well as it can with what we have to work with.
Long before we talked to the sheriff, we got this. It's his own department's data. We wanted to know how often what happened to Maria happens to others when accused abusers are not served, not given their court order to stay away. The data you see covers 3 years, every case representing someone trying to get protection. A staggering 77,000 orders. But the Sheriff's Department served only about 19,000, just 25%. That's according to a CBS data team analysis. How do you feel about hearing that number, that just 25%?
I would have to look at that data that you have there. Anytime that we don't have service, we're obviously quite upset about that.
Again, we're looking at the sheriff's data. Dart says they often don't have good addresses to find the abusers. In Maria's case, we got this Sheriff's Department document showing they did try tracking Brown, but the door was locked, so they left. The sheriff has an idea for getting past locked doors.
I think we should be given more authority to maybe go into houses, similar to arrest warrants and search warrants and things like that.
His office made a second unsuccessful attempt to serve Brown. Then it was Maria herself who got it done. Andre said she called a relative who got him to show up in court.
That's where he was finally served the emergency order after 3 long weeks.
We don't ask survivors to interact with the abusers ever.
But it's still happening. Accused abusers are being served when they show up in court, whether a survivor gets them there or they have another case. To show you how often, we had to analyze another set of data. We got these court records. You're seeing thousands of emergency protection orders just like Maria's. Our analysis found almost 11,000 cases where the emergency orders had to be served in open court. That's because law enforcement didn't get it done.
Ever since my sister passed away, I've been seeing like people reaching out and be like, they still haven't served my abuser, and they, like, I don't know, what to do.
This isn't something where we're running around saying, we have all the answers, we don't need anyone else's help. No, the contrary. We need other law enforcement agencies to help us.
And they could. Here's how. When a protection order is granted, it goes into a statewide police database called LEADS. Any officer from any department who comes across an abuser, like during a traffic stop, can serve them. Andres now wants the local police departments and the sheriff's department to work together to stop abusers.
And I just feel like they should be more connected.
Here's what happened to Maria as she waited for the sheriff's department to serve Brown. She got more harassing calls, texts, her windows broken, tires slashed, and this on her birthday last year, her car set on fire. She filed 5 Chicago police reports in 2 weeks.
If there's no order of protection and an abuser slashes someone's tires, breaks someone's window, last I checked, that's a crime.
Look here. Chicago police saw Maria's protection order had not been served. They could have questioned Brown. More importantly, after each crime, they could have served him the court order. Instead, they suspended the case. More missed opportunities just weeks before Maria was killed.
I feel like you letting someone go, they're just treating it like a paper, just like it doesn't matter. And I feel like it should matter.
All right.
Police didn't find Brown to serve him.
I just gotta pat you down real quick, okay?
They also didn't find him to arrest him.
All right, I'm good.
You're watching Brown turn himself in after Maria's murder.
All right, he's in custody.
I just hope this makes like the system better. It makes them think, okay, we felt really bad, let's work this out, let's do something different. But I feel like it's still the same.
I used to be a prosecutor. I can tell you this system hasn't changed a heck of a lot since the 80s and 90s.
Isn't that terrifying?
Yeah, you think about it. We all have basically computers in our pockets. We have the ability to track, it seems, virtually anything, whether or not your package is being delivered or not. But yet somehow we can't find these people. And so it is wildly frustrating.
What I'm hearing from you, too, is that there's not a solution right now that you have at your fingertips.
No, there isn't. To be honest with you, I wish there was. I wish I could sit there and say, if just this one thing were to change, or this one bill, things like that.
Whose job is it then to come up with this solution then? Is it your job?
Well, I would suggest to you that I am hampered by the law in the sense that I can't kick in doors and I can't burst into office buildings and things like that.
They should have a solution. They should be like, hey, let's stop this.
Not having a solution is a harsh reality for Andres, AJ, and Arabelle. They hope for a system-wide fix to find abusers, so other kids don't have to visit their mom at a gravesite.
If we have another chance to save someone else, then I know she will want that.
Maria's children continue to grapple with their new lives, living with other family members, going to new schools. Andres filed a complaint with the Chicago Police Department for how officers handled Maria's numerous reports. That case is ongoing, according to the department. They declined to answer our questions about their failures. Sheriff Dart says the 3-year service rate doesn't show how often other police agencies serve accused offenders. So his department looked at selected months from this year and found just half of accused abusers are served. That's from the sheriff and all other police departments in Cook County.
You may have seen or even been helped by this woman. She was a CTA security guard, but when she needed to get guns out of the hands of her abuser, no one helped her. China Mitchell was gunned down in January. CBS 2 is always investigating, and our Marissa Perlman uncovered how so few guns are being taken away at one of the most critical points for victims of domestic violence.
Olivia Foster's big brown eyes have seen a lot of darkness in her 4 years of life. Eyes the same as her mom's, China Mitchell. And even in that darkness, she's become a bright light to her grandparents.
She always with her. She looked just like her mama.
In January, China became one of the latest domestic violence victims shot and killed by her abuser. She was just 33 years old. Her funeral packed with people wearing purple ribbons for domestic violence awareness. China was a mom who loved her 3 children. Her friends called her the diva, always dressed up.
Yeah, this was one of her favorites.
Her mom can't seem to let go of it.
Rough around and go bowling or something.
China was a helpful person. Like, she helped everybody.
Pauline McQueen and China were raised like sisters.
I used to feel like, hold on. I'm good. When I used to feel like depressed or like sad, I used to call her.
So many lives ripped apart by a gun, an ex-boyfriend, and a system that makes it hard to get guns out of the hands of abusers.
When China said, Mama, I think he gonna catch me. He gonna try to kill me.
And why
When her relationship turned violent, China walked the same path as so many other survivors into a domestic violence courtroom to get an emergency order of protection. In October 2022, in this petition, China wrote her ex-boyfriend Louis Foster beat her and threatened her, saying, "I'm going to break your neck, bitch." She says he strangled her until she was unconscious. Olivia was in her mother's arms during some of the attack. "I was bleeding on the baby," China wrote. The judge gave her the protection order.
It didn't help her. Nothing helped her.
There's something else China tried to get the judge to do. In this petition, she asked for a warrant so police could take away Foster's guns. Look at these boxes she checked. Warning, Foster has a history of violence, is suicidal, and a threat to the public.
Did China ever tell you she was scared of him?
Yeah. She was scared in the sense like, oh, he can kill me. He might gonna kill me.
So what did the judge do? Nothing involving guns. We wanted to know why and got this transcript. It is everything that was said in court that day. There's not one mention of Foster's guns.
So it was worse, I think, than being denied. It was just ignored.
Benna Crawford from Legal Aid Chicago represents domestic violence survivors. We shared with her what else our investigation uncovered.
This as a critical piece and for survivors that actually keep them safe.
Take a look at this. It's data we obtained of emergency protection orders in Cook County. Each case represents a person in immediate danger. In the last 10 years alone, nearly 112,000 emergency orders were granted. We can't tell you how many people asked for guns to be taken because we found no one tracks that. But here's what we got from the Cook County Circuit Court Clerk's office. Only 85 gun seizure warrants were granted. Just 85.
It's an inappropriately low number, but it isn't surprising to me.
But what may be surprising, judges decide whether abusers can keep their guns while blind to their criminal histories.
It's just not a position that we want judges to be in when they are making these life or death decisions.
And get this, the system makes survivors bring proof of their abuser's violent criminal history to court, a responsibility China likely didn't know she had. Foster was a felon who served time related to a gun charge and couldn't legally even own a gun.
As it turned out to be true, without the issuance of that, removing his firearms, she was likely to be seriously harmed or killed.
Police say it was here on January 15th where China saw Foster with a gun. She liked going to this pawn shop to buy and sell jewelry.
China ran around the cabinet, around the place, to the bathroom, he caught China in the bathroom and shot her in the chest. And when she fell on the floor, he shot her again in the side of the head.
And you would think before he pulled that trigger, because I'm pretty sure China said, what about Olivia?
Louis Foster is Olivia's dad.
I'm pretending to be happy.
Just sad, kind of gloomy.
It's sad, but I'm pretending to be happy.
Kind of gloomy.
We met China's parents, Frankie Mitchell and Brenda Ferdinand, at their home on what would have been China's 34th birthday. They're now raising all 3 of China's young kids.
Because it seems like she never left. But it don't seem like she's going to come back either.
She was from God. She loved everybody.
And on this birthday, Olivia remembers her mom.
Happy birthday, Mama.
And later that night, more purple.
Happy heavenly birthday, China!
China, I love you and I miss you. I tell you good night every night. And I tell you good morning every morning. And I think you looking over me because I'm doing the best I can with your children. I love you and I'll see you later, just not yet. But please save a seat for me.
Part of the challenge China faced is Illinois' murky law involving emergency protection orders. This is a really dangerous moment for victims, yet court sources say the law is unclear as to whether judges have the authority to take away guns at that point. Lawmakers have been sitting on a bill that could help fix this problem. It's called Karina's Bill. It's been stalled for more than a year in Springfield, named after a woman gunned down by an abuser. China's accused abuser, Louis Foster, pleaded not guilty to charges of murder and being an armed habitual offender. In the newsroom, Marissa Perlman, CBS 2 News.
A Rogers Park mom facing physical and mental abuse says she was trapped by financial abuse, too. The court system that could have helped her instead failed her. She fought back, and what happened next could help thousands of survivors escape their abusers. Marissa Perlman is always investigating. She shares her story and how you can help get too.
My red pajamas, waiting for his mama.
It's a new chapter for Enid Martinez and her 2-year-old daughter, Esperanza.
Show them your spider. Yeah. Boo.
They lived in fear until Enid was able to get away from her boyfriend, Esperanza's dad.
Pay attention in the red flags, because there's always red flags.
It started with words, then Enid started recording his actions.
Food and my kids' toys. Really?
These battles then turned physical.
He grabbed me from my hair and pulled me all over our room. He punched me, kicked me.
Enid said her ex did this to her face.
Very, very scary. It was something that I never thought it would happen.
She said what she wanted. Why you was calling?
Emily, Enid's older daughter, often saw everything.
She was scared. She was like, she would yell at him, telling him to stop, or she would go and hide in her room or under her blankets.
But leaving wasn't easy. Martinez didn't know how she'd pay for rent, food, or care for her girls. She was dealing with financial abuse.
He would not let me go to work, but then when bills started coming, he would like, go get a job. You don't do anything, you're lazy.
This kind of abuse happens in around 98% of domestic violence cases. That's according to the National Network to End Domestic Violence. It's also the #1 reason survivors stay with an abuser.
If I didn't get a job, it was wrong. If I got a job, it was wrong.
Enid felt financially trapped.
It was very stressful. It was a lot of stress.
Then came the last straw, and Enid got a protection order. You can see here she says her boyfriend punched her in the face and arm while she was holding Esperanza, who was just 9 months old.
It was because of my 2 kids, just kind of made me make that decision to just leave and get an order of protection.
You can also see on her court documents, Enid checked this box asking for temporary child support. But the judge refused to even consider this, leaving her with nothing.
It did let me down, like the judge did let me down.
The judge failed to follow the law. the state's Domestic Violence Act, which says in most cases judges handling protection orders must consider temporary child support orders too.
It is critical to survivor safety. It is required by the law.
But Benna Crawford with Legal Aid Chicago says too many domestic violence judges are failing survivors the same way.
What happened to Enid is the same experience that survivors of domestic violence have been having for at least the past decade.
We went to the top judge in charge of the domestic violence courthouse for answers, and we received this statement, which raised more questions when it says temporary child support is being offered to survivors at an exceedingly high rate. We pushed back for court data to support that statement, something we'd already been told wasn't tracked, and it wasn't. The court had no data. The statement was wrong.
To get child support, Enid was told she had to file a new case in a different court, one not meant for emergencies.
That's what judges have been telling survivors for years, is go file a domestic relations case.
The problem? The process dragged on for almost another year. Not the kind of speed a survivor needs to get out.
It's not easy.
It's not. It really isn't. It's a very stressful process. It's very, very stressful.
Enid said because the court failed her, she did what she had to do for her kids and her safety. She left. But she continued to fight alongside lawyers with Legal Aid Chicago. Her team filed an appeal saying the judge didn't follow the law, and she won.
I feel good about myself that other people can now speak up and leave their abusers and do something about it.
How many victims can this help now?
I mean, it's hard to know. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say thousands and thousands of survivors.
Enid is grateful her fight can help other survivors.
Everything is scary. Everything with the process is scary. But at the end of the day, you will get your help that you need. You will. And it's going to be the best feeling ever.
High five.
A mom does anything for their kids. Anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Enid's court win is also a win for survivors, but only in Cook County where this ruling applies. We wanted to know whether judges in other counties are following the Domestic Violence Act and handling child support. Since no one tracks it, we reached out to Prairie Legal Services, which represents survivors in 36 counties. They say in 20 of those counties, judges are failing to give survivors the critical financial support they need. Enid's court win can help those survivors too, as Prairie State is now renewing efforts to get child support for their clients. In the newsroom, Marissa Perlman, CBS News Chicago.
Marissa, thanks. In the court statement, it also says they're now working on a framework to allow for the proper initiation, administration, and enforcement of child support orders. The full statement is on CBSChicago.com. There you will also find resources and a link to join an online meeting where you can learn more about child support and protection orders. That is tomorrow at noon.